Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastaya Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Gurudevi 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 Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, 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 Madana Mohana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Guru Dev, Jaya Jaya Guru Dev, Jaya Jaya Guru Dev, Jaya Jaya Guru Dev. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupa Radha Krishna Krishna Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Bhaktabrinam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Bol, good morning everyone. So we'll continue our study program. So I'll read text 1 from the Nectar of Instruction, written by Rupa Goswami. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the action of anger, and the urge of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So in the evidence regarding devotional service, the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master is that he is in control of his senses. In the Vaishnava teachings, he's called Goswami. Go means senses, and Swami, he's in control of his senses. So I'll read to you here to give us more understanding and to elaborate someone who is a bona fide spiritual master. The spiritual master is described here regarding the evidence of devotional principles is that the state of consciousness that he's in is described by Saint Prabhupada, explaining to his dear friend, the king Maharaj Nimi. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual master. So years back, our spiritual master, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, described what is material consideration. So the bona fide spiritual master is not influenced by material nature, the three modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. The mode of goodness is exemplified by a situation wherein a state of a heavenly situation where there's no problem, a person experience in his life, it's a cool, everything's cool. And in the mode of passion, the senses are very strong and it's really hard to direct it because one is driven by the mind and the desire to fulfill those desires that is situated in the mind, which has a promise of fulfillment and happiness. And not only that, control. So the spiritual master is beyond that. And the mode of ignorance, when one wants to forget everything and in a situation wherein his consciousness is so covered, one's consciousness is so covered. So the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance. The spiritual master has no material consideration. Just like there's this individual who poses as a great spiritualist, but he charges whenever his followers or whenever he teach meditation, they charge individuals. So there's a price. So the bona fide spiritual master, he's not charging anything. What has been given to him free, he pass it on as free. He's not afraid that he's gonna die. He's going to die if he doesn't have money. His life is completely in the hands of God. Although in reality, everything is in the hands of God. But in this case, it is one's loving surrender. One's shelter, because the spiritual master is someone who has a spiritual master. And the instruction of the spiritual master to him is his relationship with the Supreme Person, his shelter. So I'll just narrate what I've heard from our Gurudev about his spiritual master and about what he has been doing for years, as what we can see with his work and endeavor. When His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, at a young age, became the disciple of His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta, he was asked by his spiritual master to go to the Western world, and he was asked to translate the teachings of Lord Vyasadeva into English, the teachings of Parampara. So that's what he did. And then at a later age, when his body is really old, frail, he went to America. He took a boat, and during the time, the 1960s, he took a cargo boat, and it's really, the experience is really hard. He experienced getting sick, had stroke, and he was just given an opportunity by this young lady to take that boat to America. And he doesn't have much, only a few dollars. But because he's a perfect example of someone who followed the teachings of Parampara, especially spiritual master, as what Saint Prabhupada is telling us, that the bona fide spiritual master is completely surrendered to Lord Krishna. And since, what is that surrender? It is about his life, his love, connected with the desire of his spiritual master. That is what is motivating him. So, the more we study scripture under the guidance of someone who understands the truth, what is being said, who have heard from a bona fide spiritual master, we can have an experience, a glimpse of their intent, their relationship with God, that loving relationship. And it's connected with what is being described here. Someone who is in the third prayer of Lord Chaitanya. Because to be able to be master of one's senses, one must be under the divine energy of God. And the divine energy of God is based upon one's relationship with his spiritual master, the desire to please. What is inseparable from us, this love that we are directing upon ourselves due to our selfishness and others, because of hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, putting one's life, whole being, under the guidance of his spiritual master, that love is now in harmony with the pleasure of God, the mercy of God, and that gives a person a motivation to be courageous, to hold on. That love which is eternal can be directed in perfection, in harmony, when one follows the bona fide spiritual master. When our spiritual master gave us this basic teaching that we are a different energy from matter life, we are transcendental. So it opened our eyes, not this material eye. It opens, or it gave us a solid understanding, a foundation for what we should be focusing in the right direction, in connection what is eternal. And that is this transcendental nature and that living entity, us. Love is inseparable from us. And by nature, we are active. But if we are not guided by a bona fide spiritual master, who is master of his senses, who has no material consideration, the reason we follow such a person, so we can achieve what he achieved. He wants us to be in a state of complete surrender to the Supreme Person, to experience that harmony with the Supreme Person. And when we come in contact with someone who is a dearest friend of Lord Krishna, we're invited to go back home, to enter that family. And the rules there is the laws of love, not the so-called lust in this world. That's why what they're always anxious, not material anxiety, they're always anxious to taste that sweetness. Just like Lord Chaitanya, the perfect spiritual master, the perfect disciple who followed his spiritual master's teaching. So this state that a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demand, the action of anger, the urge of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world, because the spiritual master can free us from this ignorance of false bodily identification, and not only that, this material disease being covered by this body, influenced by material nature, the three modes of material nature, the mind, the desire, and the false ego, thinking we're Lord, we're the enjoyer. We do things as if we're independent. This false ego thinking that I am self-sufficient. So when we hear from our spiritual master the sound that we hear from Him is not contaminated by this sound that we hear in this world. Because the sound that we hear in this world is under the influence of material nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. As what we can see, as what we can experience. Sound influence us. So we are advised to hear transcendental sound. And that comes from God Himself through the lips of a bona fide spiritual master that can free us, that can purify us from this misgiving. So, by following the instruction of someone who has no material consideration, who is master of his senses, we are being put in a transcendental environment, not through the ascending method by our own power, but through God's revelation coming down from the devotee, the spiritual master, who is his dearmost representative. So when Lord Krishna was advising Arjuna to search for a bona fide spiritual master, this is the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master. Someone who can see, who is not drowning in this ocean of material misery. How can a blind lead the blind? How can a person who has no understanding of the truth gives us wisdom? How can someone who is not master of his senses teach us how to control our senses and direct our senses? And not only that, gives us what we're longing, because this love that we are misusing, misdirecting, should be reposed, or it should be in relationship with pleasing my spiritual master, who is the dearmost friend of Lord Krishna. If I please, to please the spiritual master is to follow his instruction. So the disciple should make a stand as to hold, to cling on, to hear and apply it in his life, in our lives, as what Saint Prabhupada is advising us, to become free from what we're always anxious. We're always anxious. We're always in anxiety. Just like when a person is drowning in the ocean, this vast ocean of material misery, he experienced the burning of lust and anger. And when a person is in bodily identification, he becomes subservient to the mind, to the senses, and become enslaved. So when we hear from a bona fide spiritual master, what will protect us is what is inseparable from us. When we give what is very dear to us, this love, our life, our whole being, in doing what is pleasing to God by following His devotee. So the spiritual master comes in contact with us by the mercy of Lord Krishna. He's like the rain cloud. The rain here in our place, it just rained yesterday. But it did not make a distinction where to pour the water. The whole of our province, it was raining yesterday, got so wet. So the spiritual master, he comes, canvas, and he instructs his disciple, his student, someone whom he comes in contact. He gives that soul as the opportunity to enter that world that is not under the influence of material nature. To become free from the three modes of material nature. He guides us. He guides us that even though we're under the influence of the three modes of material nature, He can help us direct our life so it can be in harmony with God. So as I look back, when my spiritual master was describing the effort, the sacrifice, the hardship that his spiritual master went through, but he carried on. So when he was in America, he went to this park and chanted the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So under the guidance of his spiritual master, the wish, the desire of his spiritual master, he passed on the holy names to us. And our Guru Dev, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarup, he came back to the island of Hawaii with nothing, bringing the holy names, which is the all in all, because the holy names of God is not different from the Supreme Personality of God. It's the complete whole, as what is described by Lord Chaitanya. So he passed on the same message that his spiritual master is passing on. And what is that message? To do the will of God. And what is that will? To devote our life to enter that world of loving devotional service. To enter the world of our true nature. Although now we are so encumbered by this body that all of us have, is under the influence of the three modes of material nature, and it also, the body is experiencing, while in this body, we experience to be born, the body grows old, experience diseases, and it dies. These material elements made out of atoms is continually changing. Not only that, we experience in our daily life miseries caused by the body, just like now, diseases all around us, from COVID-19 to TB, AIDS, is all connected with this body. Miseries caused by the mind. Although we think that we got it together, then all of a sudden the doctor tells us, you have cancer, you have 7 days to live. All what we have gained, accumulated, our shelter will be left behind, because what is clinging to this shelter, this body, will leave this body behind. So we're always anxious. In the beginning, we're always anxious. We cannot get what we want. In material consciousness, we're always anxious, longing. If I can get this, or this living entity, I can have her, I can have him, I'll be happy. Anticipation. While we're not able to get it, we're always anxious. hope I can get it, I can get it. We're always in stress. Then when we get it, we're also in anxiety. What if I lose it? What if I lose it? That's why you can see people accumulate so many material things. They put their money in the bank, like in the Philippines. During the 90s, a lot of people who work so hard in their life, they try to save so much money and put it in the bank. What happened? The bank went bankrupt. Bank run. And they use this euphemism, bank holiday. The bank is closed because of holiday. But in truth, the bank, the people running the bank were businessmen. They invested all the money in all this investment that went sour or pale, and there's no more funds in the bank. So the anxiety now, you're thinking, I have this money in the bank, and then there's bank run or bank holiday, and the bank closes. All what you have gained and tried to protect, to cling on, thinking it's in safe hands. Now we are now in anxiety. I've lost everything. So it is very important that if we want to become free from all this material consideration, we must become purified from this material contamination of false bodily identification. Because when we identify ourselves as this body, we will be following the dictates of the mind. And the mind, the desires are all there. And it has a promise of enjoyment, of security. And we become enslaved. So in illusion, we think, I'm master. Just like in this world, a young man gets attracted to a beautiful lady. And being enamored becomes attached to the body of that lady. And that body gets older and older, and it breaks down, or that person runs with somebody. Just leave the person behind. So we're thinking, I want to be in control. But our true nature is that we're eternally under the control of material nature. So what we should do, we should be under the control of what is our true nature as eternally the loving servant of God. And engage in activities that will enrich, enhance our attachment to what we're always longing. The taste of affection, surrender, and love. So, my spiritual master, whenever he sees his spiritual master, he's telling us the love that his spiritual master has for Lord Krishna and his spiritual master is so great. And he prays, he appreciates it, that he meditates upon it. To be able to become master of the senses is to be in harmony with the will of God. So when Lord Krishna tells us, just surrender unto me and I'll protect you. Protect us from what? He'll protect us, guide us. We become connected with His love. So when we have a bona fide spiritual master, He wants us to have what He has, His life, his life's surrender experience of loving service to the Supreme Person. That is giving him protection and shelter, just like when His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, went to the Western world, just like when our dearmost spiritual master went back to Hawaii and went around the world to canvas, to invite living entities who are struggling in this ocean of material miseries, who have been subjugated by material nature, who are all drowning. He opens his heart, his hands, and he picks those who would want to make a choice to engage in the loving service of God. So when His Divine Grace was leaving this world from our eyes, He was asked, "Who will be your next successor?" by this reporter. He said, "All my disciples, even you, provided you follow." And what is thus following? We follow the teachings of Parampara, the disciplic succession, to be in harmony with God's will. To be able to become sober, to be able to be in control of our mind, this body, we must be in harmony with the divine energy of God, with the divine teachings of Parampara, and enter that world where there is life, our eternal life of devotional, loving service to God. We're all blind, groping here. We see with the eye, this material eye. We stare out through the eye. I'm looking through my eyes. I'm hearing through my ears. But I am in this ocean of material misery. I cannot get out. And the spiritual master comes. He connects us with the source of this material energy and assists us so we can use this material energy that has encumbered us to purify us. He teaches us to use the transcendental sound by using our tongue instead of croaking like a frog, singing songs where we squish. Like most people, they like to diminish. They like to sing song, sad song, and experience the pain that really sort of like, crumple their hearts. He's telling no. He teaches us to sing the glories of God. Use this ear to listen to what will purify us from this misconception, misunderstanding. He opens our eyes so we will be seeing the truth with the eye of wisdom that is eternal and that is based upon our true nature as eternally the loving servant of God. He invites us to enter into that world. But unfortunately, we're so much attracted to this world. But through experiencing this higher taste, to be in harmony with this love that our spiritual master, the loving servant of God, is giving us, if we embrace that love, this compassion, this care, because the spiritual master, he has so much compassion for us. He does not want to see us suffering. When our spiritual master saw the motivation, the effort that his spiritual master is making, is giving, he can see how he loves Lord Krishna, his spiritual master. And when we can see how our Gurudev, who comes amongst our midst, who is making so much effort to give us life. We should cling to it. So the devotee enters the world. When we hear from a bona fide spiritual master, he gives us the foundation wherein we can always be sheltered in that loving devotion. And it is also in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to be able to experience these teachings of the first mantra. We must meditate upon the third prayer of Lord Chaitanya. One can chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, feeling himself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. When one makes progress in spiritual life, he feels unqualified. He feels embarrassed and ashamed of what he has done. He feels in his heart, I'm not fitted to receive that love. He feels ashamed because of what he has done. And he falls down. I'm the most sinful. I am not qualified. And then Krishna picks him. So one will be able to tolerate the urge of the mind, the senses, when one is in this state of consciousness. And to be able to achieve this state of consciousness, we must follow the process of Hare Nama, chanting the holy names, which Lord Chaitanya simply followed the instruction given by his spiritual master Isvara Puri, because the instruction is very simple, but it seems very hard. But Lord Chaitanya simply followed it. His spiritual master advises him, because you're less intelligent, simply chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that's what he did. Everything that we're seeking and looking, the love, the happiness, to be able to make a stand and not be touched by the three modes of material nature. We become brave. Why? Because we want to protect that love that we're offering to our spiritual master, to Krishna. If it's not pleasing to my spiritual master, I will not do that. I will only do what is pleasing to God. So when the disciple is given instruction by the spiritual master, seemingly from the material point of view, the spiritual master is very far, physically, geographically, and even the spiritual master leaves this planet. But the relationship is established, and the instruction that he's giving us is eternal. He may give a disciple, his student, one simple instruction, maybe 2 sentences. That in the case of Lord Chaitanya, simply because you're less intelligent, I want you to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Very simple instruction. But because he's giving an example of a disciple who has faith, who takes shelter of the instruction, to take that love that is being given by Krishna, he follows it. And that following becomes his life, his dedication, his goal is simply to follow the instruction of his spiritual master. So the disciple or the student is feeling humbleness. I'm not qualified. He always puts himself in a position wherein he's lost and he takes shelter. He bows down. Please protect me. I'm nothing. I have no protection. For so long I've been lost in this quagmire, in this abyss. I am blind. Please hold my hand, embrace me, and Krishna comes as the holy names, coming from the lips of his dearmost friend. That love, that manifestation of love, the personality of love is being manifested to us by our Gurudev. If we embrace that, we hold that, then Lord Krishna is pleased. Even though in our heart we feel, I'm not qualified. It gives us life, it gives us strength to hold on. It gives us a higher taste to carry on. That when the mind tells us, the desire is there, like, why don't you try to eat, taste this, chew again. What is chewed? Krishna gives him the intelligence. What he have heard and understood and realized, there's nothing there. It's simply material elements, different energy from me, made out of molecules and atoms. There's no happiness there. He becomes free from trying to control material nature because he knows material nature belongs to Krishna. He understands it through the teachings of scriptures coming down from his spiritual master, who is the representative of Lord Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of God, to give us this teaching to protect us so we can always be in harmony, sheltered, tasting this sweetness, this happiness of doing what is pleasing to God. And that motivates us, that gives us this strength to carry on no matter what, to make always the right choice to please the Supreme Person. So, when we follow the instruction of our spiritual master, based upon what is the solution in this age of Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga means the age of quarrel and confusion. Everybody's confused. The world where everybody's blind, where everybody's roaming around, thinking they're master, they're in control, but in reality suffering, experiencing all this pain. And the greatest pain, what's the use of living in this material world? You can desire to live here eternally, but what is the use when what we're longing for is not really satisfied? It's always unsatiated. We must become sober. Our senses must become sober when we experience this higher taste of doing the will of God. That is our real protection. So the reason we must accept someone who is master of his senses is someone who is not touched by this material energy, who is coming from a world that is eternal, the world of Lord Krishna, where devotional, loving service is experienced on and on. Not moment, because time is just in this planet. It's connected with death of this body. This is an eternal activity of Lord Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, and we're inviting us. They're inviting all of us to enter, to taste what is real, what is really sweet, and that is inseparable from us. So we must not misuse this love that we have. Just throw it in this garbage pit. For so long, we become very selfish. But there's nothing wrong if we direct this selfishness to desire, to have what we're always longing, which is to experience this loving service to the Supreme Person. And through the guidance of someone who is master of his senses, who can direct his senses, who is in harmony with that eternal love of pleasing and doing the will of God, the word of loving service, we will succeed. Success is already there by example of these individuals. All we got to do is listen and meditate. Be sober enough to understand the teaching. Because the sound, what will purify us? The process itself, the meditation itself of embracing God, the holy names of God, of appreciating, receiving what is being given to us as a gift, the eternal gift that our spiritual master is giving. And when we accept that, Lord Krishna is very pleased, because someone who comes here to make so much effort out of compassion and love to please Him, we are appreciating it and taking it in humbleness, receiving it. Then He becomes pleased. We become blessed. We make progress towards spiritual life. Meaning, what is spiritual life? It's not what most of us try to concoct or try to imagine. It is a descending, an experiential experience when we receive this sound, receive God through the lips of the devotee and follow His instruction. Just like when our body is sick, we go to the doctor and the doctor gives us medication. So when we take this medication that will free us from this disease that we have, we become cured. So the disease that we have is material disease. This false lordship, which made our heart so hard that we're not tasting the sweetness of loving service to the Supreme Person. So now we're given this opportunity to make a choice. And our spiritual master is begging us, praying, Lord Chaitanya, please love Krishna. Chant the holy names of Krishna. Haribol Namaste. Namaham Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shadvaita Gadada, Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Let's have a short chant before we part. Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Naminde. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Naminde Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Purana, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Purana, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Purana, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Purana, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya 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 Siddhaswarupananda. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya 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 Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Thank you very much for listening. Namam Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasaya Bhutale, Srimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Itinami, Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudeva Gopal. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Bol Namaste.